Howdy do, neighbor. It's Berean Spirits time once again. The boys have gathered around and they're ready for you. So join in, make comments, and study with the guys as they try to study as the Bereans did in Acts chapter 17. And now, here's the guys.
Welcome to another episode of Berean Spirits. My name is Chris Peltz. I'm the evangelist with the Southside Church of Christ here in Springfield, Missouri. Richard Dotson's putting up links all over the interwebs, inviting folks to come and join us live here on the internet as he works and labors with the Kearney Church of Christ up in Kearney, Missouri. Richard, you hanging in there, brother?
Yeah, I'm late getting these links out. I'm doing them now.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah.
We got Josh Thornhill with the Westside Church of Christ over in Wichita, Kansas, braving the storms and hailstones. How you doing, Josh?
I'm good. I mean, there's no storms right now. It's bright and sunny and all nice, but yeah, we had some storms come through last night. I have a cool video from my house. It had already passed where we were, but I've just seen the clouds and the thunder. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it is neat. I love hearing the thunderstorms, the thunder rolling, and the lightning strikes, and it's all.
That sounds like a song.
Doesn't
I've noticed though, it's kind of weird that it seems to mostly happen at night. It's like I wish it would happen in the daytime when I can enjoy it, and not 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm trying to sleep.
Wah.
I know.
That's right. Oh, man. Well, folks, we have a special treat coming up here in a couple of weeks. We are going to have Josh Thornhill at the Southside Church of Christ September 21st through the 26th for a gospel meeting. And we're inviting everybody to come out and join us. We'll have our normal time Sunday morning, 9:45 and 10:45. And then Monday through Friday, the 22nd through the 26th, each evening at 7 o'clock, Josh is going to be presenting a lesson for us, and we want everyone to make plans to come out and join us for that week of lessons. Josh, we're excited about it. We're thrilled to have you guys plan to have you and Kenzie joining us that week as you come down and labor work with us for that week. It's we're excited about it. We're getting some things prepped and ready to go, which in part is kind of what we're going to be talking about today, is getting ready for gospel meetings. But of course, you probably have one of the most important jobs in this whole thing.
Well, I guess in some ways that's true, as I'm the one that's going to be presenting the word. I am definitely looking forward to it. Kenzie as well. We're looking forward to being there and spending the week with you. What was this treat though that you were talking about? You said there was a treat. What was the treat?
Well, I was, the fact that everyone will get to meet Kenzie.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's true. That is a treat.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. But while you do have an absolutely vital and important role in all of this, and in some ways it is one of the more important roles of this, I guess there may be one more, slightly more important role when it comes to preparing for this week. And that has to do with the church here and getting the word out and inviting anyone and everyone that we possibly can, going to the hedges, the byways, the highways, letting everybody know and inviting them to come and hear the gospel preached as we get ready and prepare for this week. There's lots of things that go into gospel meetings, and it seems as though a lot of congregations have gotten away from it. Actually, we had for some time, but we're working on trying to get back into that effort and get back into gospel, having gospel meetings. So we're excited about it. We've got a lot of prep that we are doing. Just making sure that the word is out. But there is a lot of behind the scenes that's going to go on, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. And Richard, I think you're actually going to be preaching, not a full gospel meeting necessarily, but you're going to be going down to Tulsa and preaching a Sunday here and just coming up pretty soon as well.
Yeah, it's the Woodland Hills Church of Christ in Tulsa, but it's just it's on a Sunday worship. They just wanted a couple of guys they support to come in, and one to preach the worship and one to do the class.
Yeah.
And it's just a means for those guys to kind of get to know us better. It's not really a gospel meeting, but yeah, I'll be traveling next week.
Yeah, but it's a gospel effort, right? I mean, it's
a gospel effort every week. I do.
That's right. Well, and that's one of the things I wanted to get to, because we talk a lot about preparing for gospel meetings, and we're going to get into that for sure. But really, how much different is it from the effort that we should be putting in? Every week, as far as the congregation itself is concerned. Any thoughts on that, Richard?
Yeah, I think first of all, as far as the speaker goes and the elders, or even the leading men of the congregation, if they don't have elders, they have to, there has to be preparation and about the message. And of course, a lot of that falls upon the preacher. But the sermon topics need to be timely, and they need to be geared toward what audience that somebody has decided upon for that meeting, and so that means that there has to be some preparation. You have to be thinking about who you're going to be speaking to and what you're actually going to say. Now, a gospel meeting, which is different usually than just regular worship service, there's usually more of a concentrated effort to bring in those who are outside Christ. And with that, I think, at least one of the lessons, if it's a gospel meeting, at least one, and, it needs to be geared toward those to show them, the way that they can be reconciled with God.
Yeah.
That's my opinion, but I believe that needs to be at least once. And hopefully, usually Thursday nights are the nights when they're most attended for whatever reason, if it's a week-long meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's something to think about is, what night you're going to do that. If it's a week-long meeting, you probably wouldn't want to do it on a Wednesday night. But whatever night that, they expect to get more people in the audience, then that's a good night to be able to tell people how to get into Christ.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Josh.
Man, I just started reading the comment and I lost my train of thought. I hate when that happens.
Well, there's more. I can say more.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
Well, one of the things, as you were talking about, probably the biggest difference is the fact that there's more opportunity in a short span. A lot of times we run into people when they're like, well, they've got whatever going on, or they've got other plans for a Wednesday night, or maybe they go somewhere else on a Sunday morning, and while they would like to come and visit, it just seems like there's some conflicts as far as scheduling or timing are concerned. And this can help kind of eliminate that for someone who wanted to come visit. You want to get somebody, a friend, a neighbor, family member, someone that a coworker, a schoolmate, somebody that you've been trying to get to come to services, and for one reason or another, they haven't been able to make it. And this gives them a lot more opportunity, right, for looking at that week, that especially that Monday through Friday opportunity, because surely one night, right? They can come out and hear the gospel preached and maybe get their attention enough to where they realize and see the value, the importance, and they maybe start to make preparation to remove whatever's been keeping them from coming on a Sunday morning, remove whatever scheduling conflict has been there. And so it can be a lot of pressure on the preacher who's coming, no doubt. But at the same time, there is a little bit more opportunity for inviting folks and opening up the schedule so that they can probably find a time if they are in fact interested, right? And not just blowing smoke and just be like, yeah, I want to come, and just to kind of make you happy, say what you want to hear, as opposed to really having a genuine interest in the truth.
Chris, we had a good comment from Josh's dad, Thomas. He says members need to be there at every possible time. That is why we plan ahead of time. If members are not there, how can your friends see it as important? Which I think is very good. And by the way, he is going to be, and Josh, correct me on this, he's going to be preaching a gospel meeting at the West Side Church of Christ in Wichita, October 19th through 26th, which, by the way, I'm going to try to attend one of those.
Yeah.
That's going to be an effort.
The you need to correct the dates, I think.
24th. I sent in the wrong date because
that's the text I got from Josh. I don't know why. I shouldn't expect it to be right.
I get the dates between the September meeting here in Springfield and the October meeting mixed up.
Now, wouldn't you have felt bad if I showed up on the 26th?
No,
well, you
that would
just
have
got
been
to hear me then.
Oh man, yeah!
What a joy that would be, right?
Oh,
all right, go ahead, Josh. Surely you got your thoughts together now, right?
Yeah, I remember what I was going to say. We now I forgot it again. I'm just kidding. We can always invite people to church. We always can take advantage of the opportunity to ask people if they're interested in coming to worship with us. But a gospel meeting provides, I hate to say incentive, but more incentive. It's a special event, and it's like, oh, there's something special going on. Let me see if I can go check that out. It provides another opportunity for us to be able to ask somebody to come and visit with us. And so, taking advantage of that. And again, like Chris was pointing out, there's more time in a gospel meeting for them to be able to come if maybe they're working on Sunday or something, but it just gives us another opportunity. And even beyond gospel meetings, I've heard effective strategies as far as using social media and advertising just special events, like having a special topic planned out and just advertising that throughout your community. And especially if it's a pertinent topic, like something on the end times or some of the current events or something of that nature, just doing something like that and advertising that, like, hey, special event this Sunday, we're preaching on this, or such and such a date, we're preaching on this. And so it provides an opportunity to garner interest in something that you're doing, which is really the same thing you're always doing, but it just gives opportunity for us to put that out to the community so that they can, hopefully their curiosity could be piqued and they could come and join us and see what we're all about.
It is an opportunity for congregations to, make some collective efforts as far as, covering a community, right? Going out in the community, knocking on doors, handing out invitations, flyers, pamphlets, doing all, those types of things. It's not the only occasion, that can happen, but it certainly, does seem to lend itself to, it's not just that we're knocking on doors, but hey, we're having a special event that we specifically want you to come to. And granted, that's the case every week, right? We want our neighbors, our friends, our family to be there every week. But this is it's kind of a marketing I mean, so in some ways, there's some marketing to it. And the world responds a lot of times to marketing efforts, and we need to take advantage of that opportunity, and certainly as both Richard and Josh has pointed out, that with timely topics, things that people are thinking about, maybe there's things that people have been going through, depending on the region, the area, the time of year. There's all kinds of things that go into consideration when it comes to both what's going to be proclaimed and the opportunity to invite people to come out and hear the gospel as well. But really motivating the congregation, right? Encouraging them to go out and make sure you are inviting. Have flyers available, that they can grab in the weeks leading up as they leave, that they can go and hand to their neighbors, hand to their friends and coworkers, and anyone and everyone that they come in contact with, having all of that ready and available for them in advance so that they can use that and take advantage of the opportunity for the upcoming event.
Yeah, and I want to go back to the topics again, because I think the topics are just so important. What is going to cause someone to want to come on a Thursday night? And in this day and age, and I'm just going to pick something that's that I think would be a good topic. How can a single parent raise godly children? Somebody might see that advertised somewhere, and they're going to think, boy, I really need this. I really need to hear this. And so that's why I'm saying, you can pick topics like premillennialism, and most people are going to read that and they're going to think, well, that's theology, and they don't even know what premillennialism is. They don't see how it affects them. They don't know anything about it. And that's not really going to interest them. But when you preach on things that they understand, just clear cut points that they understand, then, they might be more inclined to show up to hear what's going on. So, I really think that the sermons in a gospel meeting, they really need to be directed to the point, but also very, very basic sermons, simple sermons, so that those who are outside of Christ will be wanting to come, and they're going to learn something. I mean, those people who have been coming to church all year for years, that's years of religious training. There's going to be a vast difference between their knowledge and those who have not been coming to church. And so, you got to take that into consideration. Are you going to preach the choir, or are you, thinking about those who may be coming in? And I personally think that the church in a gospel meeting, 99% of the time, needs to take that opportunity to invite those in the community, and that the sermon should be geared as such. And so that when those visitors come in, they're made to feel welcome, and that, they can be edified. Whereas if you get into too many deep topics, they're not going to understand it.
Yeah. So let me bring up a couple of things, and Josh, I'll go to you first on this, because a lot of times we get caught up on who it is we send out our flyers to, and I think there's a couple of mistakes and missed opportunities in the approach that I have experienced in times past, right? Because who generally, right? Just maybe you can answer this first. Who generally do congregations focus upon making sure they send out their flyers to?
The local congregations in their area.
Yeah, local congregations in the area, right? And generally, congregations that they have the most experience or the most in common with, right? That they consider to be, some faithful brethren. Let's make sure invite them, let them know. right? So in doing that, though, especially if that's all you do, what are the opportunities that are being missed?
Well, opportunities to reach those that are lost, certainly.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're just inviting people who are saved, then
Yeah, that's right. Right. And that goes kind of, Richard's bringing up this point about, preparing for those who haven't heard and maybe taking for granted a little bit, even those in some congregations, being grounded as much as they should, when perhaps they're not. But what about sending flyers to denominational churches? What about sending flyers uh, to liberal churches of Christ who have gone out in left field and are engaged in unauthorized practices and activities? What about inviting them, to come to this meeting, right? Because those are opportunities as well, just as good of opportunity as those who either aren't attending anywhere, or are neighbors, or those faithful brethren in other congregations.
absolutely. I mean, you kind of mentioned earlier that account in the parable of Jesus with the supper, and those who had invited had rejected the invitation, and so the instruction was to go out to the highways and byways and compel whoever to come in, and that's essentially what we were doing there, is trying to go to the people who truly need it, and trying to invite them to, maybe they can hear something that will prick their heart, that can cause them to turn away from whatever error they're involved in, and turn back to the Lord. So certainly that is a good thing to accomplish. And in addition to that, I mean, that would be one flyer. Let's say there's a congregation of 100 people. One flyer can invite 100 people, as opposed to canvassing the neighborhood. I'm not saying don't canvass the neighborhood, but canvassing the neighborhood, one flyer covers one family. Whereas if you send them to these churches, one flyer covers many, many families.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, there's an effectiveness there. Whether or not they ever see it, I don't know, because if some Baptist church sent us some revival letter, it would never hit our bulletin board.
Yeah,
but the
sure.
effort, you never know what kind of effort, that effort can accomplish.
That's right. You really don't. And sometimes even going, somewhere, maybe they meet at a different time than what you meet, and you can catch people coming in and out, right? So it's not just, mailing a flyer to, a Baptist or Methodist church. But if they're meeting at a different time, going and getting there and catching those people as they come in and as they go out. Richard, there were some times in the past that you would not only set out signs, which you can certainly talk about as well, just to let people know about where you guys were every Sunday, but you would also go and find bulletin boards. Where are some of the places that you would post flyers on bulletin boards? I mean, we certainly found some in our area that we're doing, and then other places I've lived. But there are still bulletin boards, right, that people look at and check out as they go in and out of various places.
Yeah, restaurants, especially not the franchises, but the mom and pop restaurants might have a bulletin board up at the front when you come in, and the same for gas stations, not the franchises, but if you see an older gas station, a mom and pop gas station, you can put them there. And same with grocery stores. You can do those. They got a lot more, it seems like, in rural areas. It seems to me.
Laundromats.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Laundromats. You can stick those out. Most of these flyers, though, I mean, let's face it, they can get distributed by email. And that doesn't take a bit of a problem. I'd like to focus on something else that actually has scriptural precedent. And that's from John chapter 1, when Jesus found Philip and told him to follow him. This is in verse 43.
Yep.
And Philip in verse 45 found Nathanael and said, we found the one, we found Jesus of Nazareth. And, Nathanael said, can there be a good thing, come out of Nazareth? And Philip said, come and see. And my point is that, he went to somebody that was special to him and that he knew. And he invited him to find out something that he learned. And I think that's just exactly what we need to be doing. First and foremost, you need to talk to your family members.
Yeah. And just right there in that account, right? Andrew went to his brother Peter.
Yes. And just, come and see, come and listen to the meeting. Start with family members and then branch out, talk to your friends, your close friends, relatives, tell them about it. And don't be ashamed of it. Just tell them about it. Invite them. You can't force them to come, but at least they can be invited. And but there has to be and nothing. Let me tell you something. I mean, we all do things online preaching, but nothing replaces the personal contact. And so, each member of the church, if you're going to be engaged in that work, you need to think about who your personal contacts are and, reach out to these people and say, hey, I'm calling to, let you know that church I attend is having a gospel meeting and you're invited, and just tell them about it. The worst they could say is, I'm not interested. That's the worst they could say. But at the very least, you let them know.
Yeah.
And so, I think that is really where every member needs to focus is because most of the other things, the flyers to the other churches, all those things can be done, with one push of a button. That's not a hard thing at all. I mean, once you get the emails, and I'm not belittling that. I'm not belittling advertising on Twitter and all the social media sites. I mean, that's a good thing to do because, young people, that's what they listen to. That's what they look to. But don't forget the personal contacts because
Absolutely.
that can, they may come just because of you. I mean, if you've been an example to them, they may be sitting back saying, boy, I'm really impressed with this person. And then when you say, hey, come to this gospel meeting, all of a sudden, they may think, I'd like to be a little more like that person. I mean, well, let's see what they're learning. Let's see what they know. And so, the come and see part, the personal part of it, that's a big part of a good gospel meeting.
Yeah. One of the things that I've got to brag a little bit on the congregation here for a couple of reasons, but one of which is one of the people that got us even talking about and started, this conversation about a gospel meeting was a young lady who recently graduated from college. Right. And she was like, hey, can we have a gospel meeting? This is something that she was interested in, that she wants to happen. And got, and really got us, looking at this again. And some others, a guy that, he wanted the times well ahead so he could put in to take off work that entire week. I mean, he's making preparations for this. We've got a lot of great people that are looking to this as another opportunity to be together with those of like precious faith, to hear the gospel preached, and to grow and in grace and knowledge and draw closer to God. And one of the things that I have found, and even studies have shown, in the religious world around us, when there are groups that are growing exponentially, it seems at certain times, there is one thing that they all have in common, and it's not their teaching. Right? There may be things that they are teaching that may be somewhat similar, activities they're involved in, maybe a little bit similar. But the one thing over all else that people responded to was the excitement of the members about being there and their love of being there and the joy that they seem to have in being able to attend there. And that in and of itself can make a huge difference in inviting someone. If you go to them and they're like, "Oh, I've already got plans for that week. In fact, why don't you want to come with us?" And like, "Oh man, no, I'd love to, but I can't. We've got this gospel meeting and it sounds like, you're going to be missing out on all the fun because you've got to go to church." Right. And people look at that and they're like, "Yeah, I'd rather be having fun." Whereas like, "Oh man, I appreciate that, but I've got, a lot better thing happening here. I'd really like for you to consider coming with me one day this week." And talk about how great and excited you are about this opportunity. Because you ought to be, right? We all ought to be excited. It ought to be that way every Sunday. It ought to be that way on Wednesday nights. If we meet on Wednesday nights, it ought to be that way, any and all opportunities. But we can't expect those around us to respond to an invitation if it sounds like you're inviting them to their own funeral. It's just not going to work. And so we need to examine ourselves, examine our own hearts, and understand that, you know what? We want this to happen. We want to be there, and we want you to be with us.
What did David say? How happy am I to go to the house of the Lord?
Yeah.
And I thought a little bit when Richard was talking about Mark 2 with the paralyzed man and the fact that his friends bring him on his bed and open up the roof to lay him down in front of Jesus. Real friends are going to bring their friends to Jesus. As long as they're willing, of course. They're going to do everything they can to bring their friends to Jesus because they recognize the good thing about it. But then,
that's a good sermon title.
Yeah.
Real friends
bring their friends to Jesus.
That's right.
So I'm going to copyright that. So
yeah, friends don't let friends go to denomination.
In 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 9, it talks about we are a special people, a holy nation. I'm going to go ahead and turn over there and read it so that way I'm not, butchering it. It was the second half of the verse that I was thinking of anyway, but I'm going to go ahead and read the first part because that's important too. Where Peter says, "You are a chosen family, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for God's own possession, so that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who has called you out of darkness and into his marvelous light." When I was in high school, our band had a fundraiser every year, and we would have a guy that would come and kind of talk to us about the fundraiser that we were doing and saying, "All right, here we're giving you these chocolates to go and sell to your friends and family." And he talked about somebody knocking on somebody's door to ask them to buy whatever it was. And it's like, "I don't suppose you'd want to buy this, would you?" And the response is like, "You're right, I wouldn't." And they shut the door in their face. And there were, his point was there was a lack of enthusiasm that was displayed. It's kind of like, "Well, I mean, you wouldn't want this, would you?" And it's like, no, I wouldn't. Whereas you think about those infomercials on TV. Do y'all remember Billy Mays? Is that his name, Billy Mays, the OxyClean
yeah, I think
guy?
So.
Yeah, he died years ago, but
yeah,
I remember, he's like talking about his OxyClean. He's like, "It's never been cleaner." They get these guys that are animated. You're not going to see infomercials that are saying, "We want you to buy our product. We think your life will be better because
I don't know
our product."
What's his name? Paul Harvey did pretty good like that. Good day.
It was a different time there, buddy. But anyway, like having some enthusiasm, like we're called to be heralds of the King, the chosen family, the royal priesthood, the holy nation, the people that belong to God, to proclaim the excellencies of the King who's called us out of darkness and into his light. Is that not something that should be exciting to us? Should we not be thrilled to be able to share the good news? You know, we hear about those people in the gospel accounts where Jesus heals them or Jesus does something for them, and he tells them, "Don't tell anybody," and they go around telling all their friends and family.
That's right.
You know, and do you think they, you know, like the guy who's been healed, do you think he's going to go to his friends and say, "Well, I was healed.
I'm
You
better.
know, well, yeah, I'm better now." You know, he's going to be thrilled. Like, hey, guess what this guy did for me? I was, you know, lame or a leper, and he cleansed me, and now I'm all clean. You know, there's going to be an enthusiasm and excitement about that, and that's something that we want to display, not just as we're talking about it, but displaying the kind of joy that should be in our hearts from knowing Christ. Rejoice in the Lord always is the kind of demeanor that people need to see in us. You know, the world is falling apart. And when we can maintain a positive spirit, a joyfulness about us, you know, that is going to go a long way in kind of causing people to wonder what's so different about us. I mean, I remember when I was in high school, I mean, this is not a you know, saying that I'm, you know, someone special, but anyway, I remember when I was in high school, some guy asked me in one of my classes, like, "Why are you always so happy?" And I didn't realize I was, you know. But you know, what we can do is display a positivity and a happiness, not some, you know, optimism that,
Manufactured.
yeah, manufactured optimism. You know, if we display a genuine joyfulness and pleasantness, people are going to notice that, and people are going to wonder where that comes from, and that gives us an opportunity to share the gospel with them. And so, like Chris said, we should be excited about the privilege of gathering together for a week with the Lord's people to worship God. And you know, I wonder about these congregations that either quit doing gospel meetings altogether or they shorten them down to basically nothing. And you know, what's the motivation for that? Is because we're so busy with everything else that we don't want to take time away to worship God. Yeah, of course, you know, congregations have their own reasons for that, but it's something that should be a joy to us, and not just gospel meetings, but every Sunday should be a joy to us.
Yeah.
You know, and so learning to be joyful people and to share that joy with the world around us is important.
There are some key phrases throughout the scriptures that, you know, that I think we should grab hold of and really take to heart. And the idea that we are his, you know, chosen people, right? We are, you know, his own possession and his workmanship. But there's another phrase that I think can't be stressed enough, and that is that we are to be zealous for good works. And that idea, that zeal that we're to have, um, you know, this is certainly an opportunity, a time for that. It ought to be displayed every day in our lives when we wake up. You know, this idea of peace and joy that we experience as God's children, in spite of the trials and tribulations that we are suffering through. And now's an opportunity for others to share that joy with others. As Jesus pointed out in the Gospel of John, chapter 15, verses 10, 11, and 12, talking about it. If my word, you know, if you abide in me and I in you and my word in you, that your joy may be full. And is our joy full, right? If the word is not in us, then certainly it is not. But if the word is in us, not only is our joy going to be complete, but we're going to be zealous for the good works, and we're going to go out, we're going to share that good news with others, and we're going to be doing what we can to encourage them to come out and hear the gospel preached. So I think that, you know, is extremely important for us to consider all of these things as we go through, and you know, we prepare for each week, but particularly for the gospel meetings that are going to be taking place, and not just where you're at, right? Yeah, we're having a gospel meeting, but even as Richard pointed out, he's making plans to travel, right, to go and hear, Brother Thomas preach in Wichita there in October. So here's an opportunity for someone to go to that area as opposed, you know, and as well as come down here. You know, but sometimes talk about a huge encouragement. You know, not only are you able to hear the gospel, but when you're able to go somewhere else and encourage the brethren there who are going through these efforts, that's a good opportunity for you as well to prepare for gospel meetings in the area, not just where you may attend yourself. So, with that said, Richard, you got some last thoughts for us?
Yeah, I do. We need to be ready for visitors. And what I mean by that is you need to be thinking about, if you're just anybody in the church, how are you going to communicate with them? And I'll leave this with you. And this is back from my sales days. When somebody came in, if I was holding an open house, I used to be a realtor in my early 20s. And if I was holding an open house, if somebody came in to see the house, we had a rule, everything is about them. I didn't sit there. I don't talk about myself. I don't brag about myself. I don't talk about what I'm doing. I'm there to answer questions, and listen to them, and even ask them questions about them. And so remember that about the visitors. You need to get to know them. You need to be ready to give an answer to everyone who asks you for the hope that lies within you. And just remember, this is about them. This is not about you. So don't be talking to them about yourself. And that can turn off people.
Yeah, that's a great point. Great point. Josh, last thoughts?
Yeah. It's important to, prepare in the ways that we've talked about as far as gospel meetings are concerned. But another way that we can prepare, and we need to prepare, whether we have visitors or not, is we need to prepare our hearts to hear the word being spoken. Because that's what's happening. That's what we're gathering together. That's what we're planning and purposing for, is to hear the word of God being presented. And so we need to prepare ourselves to hear what is being spoken, so that, if there's changes that need to be made in our lives, that we're willing to make those changes, or just so that we can grow in our knowledge and grow closer to God. We need to be willing and ready to hear whatever it is that's being spoken. And not just that, but we also need to be ready to hear in case something wrong is taught. And so we can be ready to correct whatever error may be spoken. I'll be over here sulking because it sounds like I'm going to have to see Richard here pretty soon. So,
oh man, it's all good. Hey, rejoice, right? You only have to see him every once in a while. Folks, we appreciate everybody who tunes in and listens to Berean Spirits. Catch us both on YouTube, Facebook. Richard's got a LinkedIn account as well for the Kearney Church of Christ, and as well the podcast, Berean Spirits. You can search for that also. And make plans again, September 21st through the 26th here in Springfield, Missouri, October 19th through the 24th in Wichita, Kansas, and follow us on our social media accounts to keep up with all of the news and updates we have. And we'd love to have you visit with us by all means. Any Sunday you have the opportunity, make plans to come out and be with us, whether it's in Kearney, Missouri, Springfield, Missouri, or Wichita, Kansas. Until next time, remember to search the scriptures with Berean Spirits.
Well, folks, that's all for today. Don't worry. Lord willing, the guys will be back next week for another Bible study on Berean Spirits. Until then, let the guys hear from you. Drop them some email at bereanspirits@gmail.com. They'd love to hear from you. Until next time, let's keep studying that Bible.